Lo and behold, the man has returned.
It's good to
Andy,
be back, Dave. I missed you last week. I thought I was going to be able to join you on Friday, but the Army, being the Army, had other plans for the week that we had, and so I didn't get to join you. But I'm glad you got to solo. I'm looking forward to catching up on those episodes myself today, and glad to be back with you here in this final stretch of May.
so how come you didn't listen on like your drive back, Andy?
You know, when I'm with,
What are you listening to on the road?
my wife and I like to put music on the road and just drive. Like we talk or like podcasts. Like I don't like to listen to books or podcasts when I'm with my wife. Like it's not our thing. So
Yeah.
we actually, we used to really enjoy road trips, especially when we were in Germany. We used to really enjoy. We used to love like just singing along. So yesterday my wife took over the aux and played DJ for the last part of our drive in, and she went through like her choice of '90s songs, and so we were blasting it very loud with the windows open, singing awfully, and she put on a couple classics. She knows I love to sing, as awkward as the lyrics may be for me to sing personally. So, I was rocking Shania Twain's "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." I crushed that pretty well. TLC's uh, "Creep," right? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, or I'm sorry, not Creep. We did listen to Creep, but we were singing along with No Scrubs. So we were, there's a wide variety of rock and pop and R&B, and it was a lot of fun. But we listen to music. You listen to We're not singing, we're listening and talking, and it was a nice chance to connect. It was, in addition to the Army adventures we had for my son, it was also our anniversary last week, and so there was a lot of very interesting parallels in our journeys that maybe we'll get into as we go forward in today. But either way, glad to be back. Sorry for the delays.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you back. It's good to be able to share the time with you
It's
because like getting fill in 7 minutes segments, it's I mean, I got better at it, I think, but at the same time, I would much prefer you
Yes.
breaking it up.
That,
But
that's the pod. It's men of a certain X, not man of a certain X. So
yeah, that's exactly right. So I did some traveling myself this weekend, and then I had a full list of pods that I just ran through. Um, and then I got to music at the end. But you're right, when there's somebody else in the car, it's a little bit different.
yeah,
You don't want to listen to your nerdy pod sometimes,
yeah.
and but all good. So, all right, Andy, let's jump into your. I'm dying to hear about your Army experience, Andy. How was it going back? First, you were at Fort Jackson, South Carolina,
Yeah.
outside of Columbia.
Yep.
Um, where the University of South Carolina is for my son. So we visited there frequently. My son did some work at Fort Jackson because he was in ROTC out there. So how was it there? And then you went down to Fort Benning for dropping your son off for officer candidate school. So how was it?
It was a really fun experience. I mean, with the Army stuff specifically, it reminded me of all the goods and the bads of the Army, the things I loved and the things that drove me absolutely nuts about the Army, right? I mean, for one, the idea of Fort Jackson, South Carolina, their motto is "We make American soldiers," and it's really it's a true statement. It's a beautiful thing. As we attended graduation, and they took in these 5,000, people, family members, and supporters of these new Americans. So I think there's 1,005 new soldiers that graduated that day. They from every corner of the country and countries around the world, right? There were kids from ages 17 to 42 years old. They were part of that graduating class. Kids that had just, completed a GED to people with a master's degree. Just all walks of life, newly naturalized citizens that naturalized during basic training, kids born and bred in the United States of America, economic class differences, racial and ethnic differences. They came out there and stood as American soldiers. They'd gone from all these different walks of life, and they came out and they were all there understanding how to stand, how to march, how to salute, how to take orders, how to follow instructions. They were ready for their next step in their Army adventure. And it was awesome to take in. It was truly just awesome to take in, seeing the drill sergeants develop these young boys and girls, some not so young boys and girls, into American soldiers. It's truly amazing. I was standing there the night before they did an award ceremony, And the drill sergeants got up and sang cadences. And Dave, it was the same cadences that you and I were learning 30 years ago, you know. So I had a big smile on my face. You know, my wife was laughing at me because I was ready to jump up there and take over and sing some cadence myself. You know, like it was so fun and so many. One of the beautiful things about the military is that continuity and the things that don't change. You know, the uniform's different. You know, the kids are maybe a little bit different. You know, what they do, what they have, but they're there being trained to become the same soldiers that every soldier has learned how to be, miserable and having fun at the same time. And it was really just a lot of fun to take it all in. But then as you move through that, and as my son was trying to get his orders for his next step in his adventure, all the chaos of the big green machine was there too. You know, you couldn't get orders cut, didn't know when my son was leaving, didn't know if we were going to be able to drive him or if he was taking a bus, didn't know when exactly he had to be at Fort Benning, didn't know if we were going to get to see him when we got there. Just like for something that happens routinely all the time, complete chaos, you know, and that's always the Army, right? Like things are structured and end up working, but the process sometimes you're like, how chaotic can this be, and why isn't this better? And then young soldiers scrambling around trying to find gear for OCS. We got our son a lot of stuff ahead of time, but it was still chaotic. You're thinking like, why is it this way? You know, just so many things that reminded me of moments banging my head against the wall in the Army. Like, why is this so bad? You know, why is it this way? So it was a fun reminder of some of the goods and bads. There's a lot more than that. And Fort Benning, Dave, for those that don't know, Fort Benning is the home of the infantry, right? It is a Fort Benning.
Not just the home of the infantry, it's the home of the maneuver now,
Well,
even.
that's true. It's home of the maneuver, but it's home to a lot of like Army schools, right?
Yeah.
From basic training for some, from the officer candidate school, they've got their own NCO academy, they've got airborne school, they've got ranger school, they've got other programs for other country members. Like there's a lot happening at Fort Benning. And it's got a beautiful, fun energy down there. It's very Army, right? Columbus, Georgia,
Yeah.
and the neighboring area in Alabama, very military, very fun, very patriotic, you know, and there's a lot of things to enjoy about the region, just being down there in the South, from South Carolina to Georgia and Alabama. It was just a really fun experience to celebrate America, you know, celebrate our military, celebrate those who volunteer to defend this nation, you know, those who are willing to serve, those without bone spurs, those who are willing to put on the uniform and volunteer, you know, to put on that mantle that many others have carried, right? This will defend. And they're all stepping up to do it. And it was a beautiful thing. And I gotta say, we fully soaked in the beauty of Americana and the Southern hospitality and experience and the pleasantries of people. I mean, it was really beautiful and a great reminder of, again, as I said on our last road trip, the diversity of this nation, every region, every state having its own things that are just really fun to experience and be a part of. So, you know, we love it. We were in 5 states over 2 times each over a 5 day period. And we really enjoyed the experience from, you know, from top to bottom, except for the driving, of course, because you know, we were playing leapfrog with assholes all day long. But other than that, it was truly a great experience.
Yeah, the driving experience of when I was going up to Pennsylvania this weekend, um, it was like the worst type of experience. So for driving up, the interstate closed down because of some accident.
Yeah.
So I had to find my back road around. I'm already off my time schedule. Then I get into a massive storm and like everybody's slowing down to 30 miles an hour. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then add construction on top of that. So it was always fun, but I can really, well, that, I mean, it's awesome news, Annie. Proud of your son there to get all that done. I'm sure you're very proud of him. Does he start OCS now, or is he still, does he got a couple days to wait?
No, no, he arrived at Fort Benning on Friday, and he has by this time of Monday morning already completed his physical fitness test, and those who didn't pass the test have already been discharged from the school at this point. So he is in it and hopefully doing well and having fun.
There we go. So that's the Army way. You know, you got to, first thing you take is that the physical fitness test. You got to make sure you're in shape, and that's why so many units make sure that their kids are ready when they get to that school because they got to take that PT test first and foremost. And so that's exciting news. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed all of that. And maybe got a reprieve from some of the other madness and craziness that was going on all around here. So
I was definitely focusing on other things besides the news for a few days, which was fun. But I'm sure you've got some things you want to talk about, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it.
yeah, so I talked about a bunch of things last week and um talked about the Republicans, talked about the tariffs, they talked about the China deal or whatever that may be, and some of these other things. They call these things deals, but they're,
Yeah,
like I was telling everybody, Andy, that like it's not really a deal. It's like a pause. It's like an agreement to talk more later.
yeah,
The tariffs are still in place for more than they were, but I do find, you texted me or sent me something this morning and just said from Mama Jabor. And Mama Jabor is an avid listener, so we got to take in what she has to say. But you had indicated, she had mentioned, what if Trump is right
yeah,
about some of these things?
yeah,
And I will acknowledge, Andy, I think we both said this. We've been very transparent about all this. I think we think his policies overall suck. The execution of some of his policies suck. But what the underlying on some of these things is aligned, it should be done. Like cutting the federal government should happen. Now, the way it's being done, the method is being done is and the lies that accompany that and the mistruths that accompany that, that's poorly done. That's embarrassing, it's shameful, and it's disgusting. But I guess the question is like, what if he is right? What if we do
yeah.
get these trade deals? I don't think he is because ultimately manufacturing is not coming back to this country. There's a big article last week about Apple and their Trump likes to tout Apple is bringing $500 billion investment into America. They promised that to a lot of people and they've never delivered yet. And so, like those kind of things, have you thought about like what if Trump is right, Andy?
Yeah, so my mom asked that question, Dave, and others have asked that question too, I think. Like people sort of said, like, what if we're wrong about President Trump? What if he's the exception and he's right about all these economic ideas and all the economists are wrong, right? Like, do we owe Trump an apology? Like, is he really smarter than everybody else, or did he get right on these things at least? And at the end of the day, David, you touched like it's not a matter of like could his policy be right? Could his position on something be right? Right? I mean, most Americans again had concerns that the president connected with during the campaign, right? Inflation, prices, security, like people connected with those issues. The point is the ends don't justify the means, right? So Donald Trump might do a lot of successful things during his presidency. Possibly. I don't know if he'll have the success that he imagines, but possibly. Let's just say he does. The problem is he's destroying the foundations of this republic and destroying our Constitution along the way. And that's a cost that's too high for some level of economic success and increased border security, right? The cost is too high. He is trampling our Constitution. He is trampling the Bill of Rights. He is trampling the separation of powers. He is destroying the value and purpose of Congress and trying to destroy the value and purpose and functions of the judiciary. That is a very dangerous game that he's playing. So even if Donald Trump is right, even if he has great success, even if the economy is booming in a year or two's time, it comes at a cost that is too high, and the ends don't justify the means. That's Dave why I disagree with the president so vehemently. It's not on his issues. I do disagree on the issues, but that's fine. I disagree with Joe Biden on the issues. I disagree with this president because he is acting like a tyrant. He is acting like a king. And it's a dangerous, dangerous game because if Donald Trump is right and he's a great pretend king today, whoever comes in next might not be such a great pretend king. And that's what our founders recognized and knew that tyranny always ends in a bad place for people. And so they created a government that they thought would overcome that obstacle by putting the people in charge and making it resilient to would-be tyrants. And we're throwing all that away right now. So even if the president is right and successful in the near term, the cost is way too high for America and what our founders looked to, which we are failing miserably at, which is looking out to our posterity. Where will this nation be for generations to come? Where will this nation be in 100 and 200 years? our founders thought deliberately about it. They put this government in place, very thoughtfully, and we're just not respecting or understanding that. And so he might be right, but at a cost that is absolutely devastating to what and who America is. And I can't support that, even if I agree with him on some issues.
Well, and I think that's the core point, right? And that's where I was going to circle back to is we've seen there is a problem. The drain the swamp kind of stuff. I don't like that method terminology,
Yeah,
but we have a lot of process problem. We've talked a lot about these things, how our political structure is set up, how our federal government is set up, how all these things are set up so that we have bureaucratic layer upon layer upon layer. The regulation is over the top. There's regulation upon regulation. There's a lot of problems, but the solution is not undermining the established rule of law,
yeah,
undermining and giving more authority to one person and effectively challenging the courts on this as well, to the fact that we have a checks and balance system, and now we're trying to go to one court to overrule another court. We have a lot of problems, and I think Trump is right in that we have a lot of problems. But the solution is not give the president more authority.
right.
The solution is how do we fix these problems? Because yeah, he's fired the federal workforce at the cost. It's a cost now. It's not a benefit. It's costing the American country or America. We haven't solved anything. Just by cutting people doesn't solve the bureaucratic process. DOGE has not worked.
Yeah.
It has not been what has been promised. Even if you save $1 billion, that's not the trillions of dollars that has been promised. And I think that's the underlying issue here is we cannot like, and again, whoever comes next is now at a new starting point because of what Trump did. And the pathway to authoritarianism is ever closer. So we have to pull this ship back into where we were. Look, fix the problems. Trump has got a lot, like, yeah, he's right. He's said a lot of things that I think are like, we do have problems, but the solution is not give Trump more authority because he's the only one, he's the smartest person in the room. We know he's not, so. I find that an interesting discussion. It's something we'll watch as we continue to go through these next 3.5 years, Andy. So,
Yeah. But Dave, you had a really important point too. But besides the president's, actions and issues, is sort of the mess of activity that's covering other real issues and problems. So, for all the bullshit that was DOGE, and as a very good point, like there were some cuts that have come at an incredible cost, right, to people's lives, to our data security, right, to the structure of our government's operating systems. Like there's a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, the Trump budget is bigger than Biden's last budget, right?
yeah.
So we're not reducing the size of government. We're changing where the spending is occurring. We've also spent a shit ton on the chaos that DOGE has created, and we've lost institutional knowledge. We've lost key leaders in key positions in our federal workforce. We're worse off than we were in January from a readiness standpoint. We've got a FEMA that's not prepared for wild severe weather season. And across the board, our federal workforce is hurting. We're changing so many things so haphazardly, and we're acknowledging that, yeah, also we're going to be spending even more money and adding to the deficit. And this is why Republicans are fighting each other right now, because they're saying, some are saying, hey, like this is absolutely not what we wanted to do. We sought to reduce federal spending, and you're finding a way to increase it. It's just chaos at a level that we have not seen in this country during our lifetimes, just absolute chaos. And ultimately, it appears to be a failing proposition. DOGE was an absolute failure, and has come at a ridiculous cost for us. And it epitomizes both the absolute failed bullshit leadership of Elon Musk and the failed bullshit leadership of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the chaos in the first couple of weeks with DOGE. Have we heard about DOGE lately? I mean, what are they doing? Where they been? Are they saving a couple pencils here and there? What are we really doing? Again, instead of attacking real government efficiency, they just plowed through the system. So, okay, Andy, we can talk more. Look, we'll have 3.5 more years to talk about this kind of stuff. So let's reflect back on the last 4 years, Andy. One of the pod discussions I had was about President Biden, former President Biden now, and and his health issues. And in fact, it was far worse than anybody has possibly imagine, that to the point where he was really only effective for 4 hours a day. You could only talk to him here and there. And now the people are one lining up to say, "Oh no, I didn't know. I was predict." I think that's going to flush out here, and it's going to. I think honestly, it's going to impact the Democratic race next time around. Is all these people who were part of the administration who may be trying to run for further office are now going to be questioned about, why didn't you say something when you
Yeah,
clearly should have known.
yeah,
And I think that that's going to confront Buttigieg, as because he looks like he's one of those ones standing up.
yeah,
Andy, over the weekend, it was now revealed that the former president has a very aggressive form of prostate cancer, which is, I mean, it's cancer treatment, as you know, Andy, is quite, you know, quite intense.
yeah.
He's older, not to say that it's not recoverable, but I just can't help but wonder, like, if he would have been remained president, what would have that have looked like? This would have been a really tough situation. And look, President Trump, despite the fact that he claims he's the healthiest president of all time, he's 78 years old. He's getting up there in age, and these health conditions are why we should probably put a limit on how late you can run. But any thoughts on that news, Andy? I know you were traveling yesterday. You probably didn't get around to seeing a whole lot of it.
No, I did see some of it. I didn't get into the details of how bad some of it really was, but I did see the general stories. And I mean, like, it's fair. I mean, America saw this, and this is, I think, really, this was a turning point in the election. And even though Joe Biden stepped down and Kamala Harris stepped up, this is where America, like, I think, generally lost a lot of confidence in the Democratic Party. Was that presidential debate? I mean, Joe Biden was absolutely horrible in that debate. Now, Trump was terrible in his own way, right? I mean, it was full of nonsense and bullshit, which we expect from him. But Joe Biden was holding on, and it was miserable, right? And America saw that, and like that ended Joe Biden's campaign. Like right then and there, America said, "Good Lord, this man cannot serve another 4 years. Like he will genuinely like die in office because it's just too much for him. He's not fit and capable." It is going to come back to haunt Pete Buttigieg, who is out aggressively trying to, sell himself as a great option. And look, he speaks great. He's got a great story, charismatic, likable. There's a lot going for Pete. But if you knew how bad Joe Biden was, your loyalty to America should exceed your loyalty to your party or the man. And there's going to be questions asked about, why didn't you say something more loudly and more clearly? Who were you putting first? Was it your political future? Was it the Democratic Party at risk to the American people? Those are fair questions to ask. And he's going to have to come and answer those very clearly. And it's going to come at a cost, for his aspirations. But to the Democratic Party more broadly, covering up, President Biden's health deficit, his issues, that is a slap in the face to America as a nation. It's disgusting, right? Joe Biden did the right thing and stepped down because he was obviously unfit and not ready to be president again, and America saw it. He did the right thing. I thought it was a patriotic act. It was the right thing to do. But from there on, the non-primary process, the coronation of Kamala Harris, really wasn't what was right for the American people, even for Democratic loyalists. It wasn't the right way to do things. And it hurt. And they never recovered from that. The party never recovered from that. And Donald Trump just went on and gained momentum. And through the failed assassination attempt, he looked strong and vigorous. And I'll give Donald Trump this. While I disagree with almost everything that comes out of his mouth, that mouth doesn't stop moving all day long. He is full of energy and bluster. And even when he's full of shit during these interviews, he's taking interviews and putting himself out there. And so we can sit here and disagree with him, but we're hearing from him, and he's out speaking for himself, and he's saying what he wants to say. And you can disagree with him. Joe Biden was hidden away, and it hurt. It hurt. And at the end of the day, it was dishonest. It was dishonest by him, by the Democratic Party, by all involved in the White House. And the Democrats have issues. They are a failing party today in Congress. Their effort for the White House, it's embarrassing. And look, the Democratic Party is having a hard time because they have failed leadership at this point. Like, who is leading the Democratic Party. Pete Buttigieg is one great voice that's trying to do it, but he's got answers to share as well.
Yeah, it's what I talked about last week, Andy, is like it's failed leadership. I mean, just think about if the party would have gone a different way. I mean, look, his health was never going to get better.
Yeah,
And if they would have taken, even though the midterms in 2022 worked out for the Democrats, the reality should have been is like we still need to transition this this party. We need to transition the country. We need to transition everybody
yeah,
because that's how it needs. I mean, and they failed at that. And then they got stuck with that. And they didn't have a true primary season.
yeah.
They could have, like the coronation of Kamala Harris. Maybe she still wins the primary. And I don't know. But the fact is that we don't know is exactly the reason why it circumvented the entire process. And I think that's just where the Democrats now are going to be ruining this. And I said it last week is the Republicans, whether again you like them or not, they're a party, at least they have, you don't have to like it, like you just said, but at least you know where they're going. I mean, if JD Vance is next in line, which I'm not so sure he is, but whoever is, it's going to carry on that Trump mantle because that's what the party is. So at least you know where you're going with that. And in 4 years, you'll have a better sense of was that a good path or not. The Democrats have no path. I mean, what really do they stand for? It goes back to that line in Hamilton talking about Aaron Burr. What do you stand for? Where put your name out there and stop being the party of like whatever he says I'm against for. Like put your own principles out there. So all
That's
good stuff. All good
something we'd
stuff.
like to see from both parties and candidates more often. And again, that's something that Donald Trump does do well, is he tells you what he believes, right? It might be completely crazy, but he tells you what he believes. He tells you what's on his mind, whether he's blasting it out on True Social or he's saying it to some media personality on his plane. Like he shares what he thinks, and it resonates with Americans. One of the things people liked about him during his campaign was they felt like they knew who they were getting. They felt like he was an honest presentation of himself. Now, is he dishonest? Yeah, at times he is dishonest, doesn't say things truthfully, but he's putting himself out there. And some of these candidates, some of these politicians want to be so packaged and so prepared and so perfect, and it comes off disingenuously, it comes off as bullshit, it's not likable, it doesn't connect with people. Right, so this isn't a defense of Donald Trump, but it certainly isn't a defense of politics as usual or the Democratic Party leadership today. There's a lot of failed leadership. There's a reason why Donald Trump is president of the United States of America again, because there is no viable alternative that the Democrats could present. It's a crappy party. And it talks to our broken two-party system. It talks to the self-interest of these political parties over America, right? It's politics and party over country, right? It's everything that I didn't see at Fort Jackson when I was down there watching these young boys and girls stand up and say, "Hey, I don't care about where I come from. I don't care who I was. I'm here to put on the uniform and serve these United States of America, to obey the Constitution of the United States of America and the President of the United States of America." And that's the oath they took, and they're going to do it to the best of their ability. And that's absolutely not what our political leadership, neither in the White House nor in Congress nor in these two political parties, is doing. And it's a disservice to this country. It's a disservice to all those boys and girls and everybody in uniform as well. So America's got a lot to think about as we move forward.
Well, that's a good way to bring it back around, Andy, to where we started, and let's wrap it up for this Monday. So it's good to have you back. It's good to
Nice to
be
do that.
on the line with you here, and maybe we'll talk a little NBA playoffs again, Andy, because I covered it a little bit. We have a very unusual Final Four
Yeah.
of teams here. So the conference championships are set up. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that on Monday and or on Wednesday and what it kind of means for the future of the league. It's some interesting points here. So,
All right. All right.
all right, Andy, with that, I will catch up with you on Monday or Wednesday. Oh shit, look at that.